The trip from Catherine into Kakadu was probably a bit slower than I actually expected, so it took us a little bit longer than first thought to get in, which would have been fine, but I was looking to try and do either a chopper flight from Jabiru, but didn't have any takers to come with me, so second best option was to do a sunset flight out of Cooinda, where we were staying at Yellow Waters, around the local area, and that took off at 5 o'clock. Needless to say, we landed in the car park for the caravan park at about 4:45, so by the time we checked in, dropped the van off, I arrived at 1 minute to 5. Now, they were running a bit late, which probably helped me catch my breath before we went up, but yeah, we're only flying 500 metres above the ground, so very smooth, which was good in a little plane, which I haven't been great in the past, but yeah, fantastic. Probably sat on the wrong side of the plane to take the photos, but I think I still did a pretty reasonable job in terms of having a look around some of the local area, the escarpments. We went up to the edge of the uranium mine that's still there presently, but will be filled in the next sort of 5 years to try and restore it back to somewhat of what it was before it was dug up for the uranium. Saw lots of burning off in the area, which the locals are doing during their dry season, just to kill a lot of the grass and just up the trunks, the base of the trunks of the trees, and that's mainly just management of the bush, really. Yes, in the past it's probably been to help them with flushing out food and regenerating growth to attract more animals at a later date, but yeah, as we've been told in numerous times while we've been up here, that if they didn't do that and didn't do it on a regular basis, then if they did happen to have a wildfire through here, that it would absolutely devastate the joint, because there's no way of controlling it with everything that's here. But the flight was fantastic, so ended up having some dinner with the troops beyond that. And then got into today, which was a big day. We did a whole lot better this morning. We were up at 6 to be at the bus stop at 15:15 because we had a dawn tour on the wetlands, and they did say to us that because it was cold and it was early and everything else, it's probably about 15-16 degrees, which is probably as warm as it was through Uluru and Kings Canyon and everywhere else we've been at the moment, but cold for up here. They didn't think we'd see too many crocs. But we saw stacks, quite a few little ones in the edge of the water and quite a few big ones that came out as well. The bird life and the history and some of the things that are around here, including, you know, a number of native bamboos. We saw white-breasted sea eagles, we saw one of their nests, we saw magpie geese, we saw all sorts of things up here, and yeah, the tour was absolutely fantastic, so I can highly recommend that if you're coming up this way and it is on your list. Well worth doing for sure. The photos hopefully won't disappoint a little bit later on. Did get to see some water buffalo and some pigs and things like that as well, which, whilst they were a little bit further away, it was interesting to see them in this kind of environment. To continue on the day, which was a long one, ended up being about 14-15 hours in the end. We took off to Norlangi to have a look at some of the rock art, and whilst some of that was perhaps there was less definition of some of that art compared to Ubir, which we went to later on, it was probably the older stuff, and it was certainly worth the look and worth the detour. And we thought while we were up that way, we would maybe go up to Ubir, see what the rock art was, and then depending on how we were all going, we might you know, climb to the top of the lookout and have a little bit of a look at the sunset over Arnhem Land. And we certainly weren't alone in doing that, as there would have been easy 100-150 people probably up in and around that whole area doing exactly the same thing as we were. But the 360-degree views and the sunsets were, the sunset was pretty spectacular, so it was pretty much just as the sun came down that we decided it was time to go. A little bit of a harrowing drive home in the dark with no idea really where we were going, and not being able to see too far. Obviously being mindful of the animals that might have been around at night time, so just made it home in time to be able to order some dinner, and everybody is tucked up in bed. I think the kids are well and truly pooped today, but yeah, look, I definitely recommend Ubir for the rock art and that experience. If you're staying up in Jabiru, or you can make the trip and you weren't too bad with the driving at night time, then all sensational stuff to do. And to be honest, like, you know, sure, as I said to everyone today, short of having kids, this is probably the best thing that, you know, I've ever done. So I can highly recommend it, and we've still got, you know, fingers crossed, a week to go before the end. But yeah, between here and Kings Canyon, felt these two places in particular were really, really peaceful, and it, you know, it kind of felt like home. I've got no idea why, but yeah, that's the only way that I can probably describe it. So looking forward to a fishing tour with Liam tomorrow, I beg your pardon. Hopefully might catch ourselves a barra or two, and a quiet day for the rest before we take off to Litchfield. But I will check in tomorrow. Thanks.